On today, believe it or not, the 28th of November. I think it's about 10 weeks since that famous day in Croke Park when Kerry came for their 5 in a row, thought they had nothing else to do, just go up and collect the Sam Maguire, and of course, Offaly, well, put an end to all that. And today, sitting here beside me, along with his fabulous family, we have one of the main people involved in the Offaly team who was responsible for putting a stop to that, Martin Furlong. How are you, Martin?
Not too bad at all, Racey. Yourself?
It's had to been a hectic 8 or 9 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been pretty tough, alright. Yeah.
Well, Martin, let's get back to where it all started for you. 1964, I think it was, All-Ireland minor football champion against Cork and that. Did you see all this happening in those 18 years? Could you see yourself 18 years afterwards with 3 All-Ireland medals, so many Leinster medals, Railway Cup representations, Carl's All-Star Awards? We could go on and on and on and on. How did you feel going back 18 years ago?
Well,
as a young boy in Croke Park.
That was really a fantastic day. Nobody could ever envisage what happened ever since, you know. So I suppose it's the start, alright, but at that stage you couldn't ever look forward to. You'd be hoping, but you could never really see it coming through, you know.
Well, 1971, your first on. 1969, Martin, the disappointment against Kerry.
Yeah, that was a bit of a letdown, alright. That was a terribly bad year. We lost 3 finals that year, league final, All-Ireland final and grounds tournament final, all to Kerry. And you couldn't really see us winning anything at that stage.
And then coming out in 1970 and winning by 10 points at half-time against Meath, and bang.
Yeah, bang. One of the great, I don't know what you'd call it, great flops if you like, but...
Can you remember back then to 71 then, how did the Offaly team go about getting themselves together and coming out and winning their first All-Ireland, particularly after losing? After winning a Leinster, losing a Leinster, and then coming out then in 71?
Well, I think everybody involved with the team and the panel in general realised that there was something more there than this losing thing, you know. So it was a bit of determination got in and decided, well, we'd have a go this year, and there'd be no flops, there'd be no escape routes left to anybody to get away, you know, so just sheer determination. And that.
Well, can you make comparisons now, jumping right now back up to 81, 82, defeating last year's All-Ireland final, and coming out again this year and starting it all over again?
Well, I suppose it's like everything, there's always something to be learned in defeat, you know, and I'd say we learned a lot from last year's defeat. Put it into use this year, a stronger panel. Players knew a little bit more about winning this time and knew what it took to win. And when we came back to town last year after losing the All-Ireland and the reception we got, I think it hit everybody. You know, that a fantastic turnout. And we're coming home with nothing, so what would it be like if we had won and came home with Sam? So I think everybody put their heart and soul into it at that stage and said never again we're coming back in a losing train.
Put their heart, soul and their families as well, isn't that right, Katie?
That's right, I'll agree with your answer.
How does Mrs. Furlong feel about all the football? Has it been good to you, Katie, up and down?
It's been very good to us, Ricey. Every Sunday there's something to go to. There's a match or there's something on and something to go to. And of course there's always the do's after when they win.
Well, what about the Furlong family here? This is Tom. Are you interested in football, Tom?
Yeah,
What are you going to be when you grow up, a footballer or a hurler?
footballer.
Will you be a goalkeeper?
Yeah,
You will. And what about I was interested in the football anyway, aren't you, Ken?
yeah,
And the hurling as well. Whereabouts do you play on the football team?
goals.
In goals, I wonder why. And over here is is this the little baby of the family? This is Mark.
No,
Are you not the baby?
no,
Who's the baby?
Tom.
Tom is the baby.
Yes,
Well, I don't know. I think you're nicer. I think you're a nicer little baby. I'd rather bring you home with me. Anyway, what do you think of all this football, Mark?
very good.
And you like it too?
Yeah,
And the lady of the family over here, Camogie? No?
no,
Not. How do you feel when Daddy goes out and plays on Sundays? Do you be nervous about him?
well, for the championship I was nervous, but it's good to have a challenge match and you don't care if they win or not.
Oh, I see. And of course, Daddy is the number one hero.
Yeah.
And who else do you fancy? Who else on the Offaly team do you like? Can you pick out really?
Sean Lowry.
Sean Lowry. I wonder why. I think he's been there along with your daddy a long time. Katie, what about accidents and that? Do you ever worry about Martin? He's there in the last line of defence and all the forwards are thundering in there and tapping and that sort of thing and those heroic dives. Do you close your eyes when it's happening?
Not really, no. I think he's pretty well able to take care of himself. No, I don't really worry about him.
As a compliment, Martin. A win is a win, but what went wrong against Galway, Martin? Do you think that just the Offaly team, was it a better Galway team, or was it the fact that Johnny Mooney had come in and you were trying to reassess your game?
Yeah, well, basically, I think most people underrated Galway for a start. I played on a lot of Offaly teams against Galway, and we never found them easy meat. You know, I never saw a Galway team badly beaten before, and possibly we didn't play all that well within ourselves, but at the same time, I would put a lot of it down to Galway's tenaciousness.
And the final whistle went that day, and you realised, you looked up at the crowd, and you said, "This is it. We're back again.
We're back in the big time again.
Back in the big time again."
Yeah.
Did you think at that stage you had a chance of beating Kerry?
Yeah, I did really. I know we'd had to put our game together a bit better, but well, when you go out in a two-horse race, you're always there. You know, you can never be written off, and that's where I think the media and everybody else slipped up. We were going up there. We were going to be no better than the flower pots and the stands around Croke Park. We were only there to add to the scene. That was it. That's not the way it is in All Ireland, and that's been proved time and time again.
Now, at half-time, Offaly really looked good. You looked in with a great chance. I think you only won a point ahead, and a lot of people were of the impression that you let Kerry come back into the game with about 5 minutes to go in the first half. Was that discussed at half-time?
It was, yeah. It was discussed in the sense that we couldn't have, if that was the coming towards the end of the match, that we couldn't afford to relax the same way as we relaxed just before half-time. That Kerry wouldn't come back and get a couple of points, but come back and get a couple of points and then they'd ram in the goal and screw you. You know, it turned out, it worked out the other way. We were quite confident at half-time. We knew we were only halfway there, but still the team was playing well within itself, and you could see the steel that was in the team, and it probably reflected from the fact that our whole half back line went up the field and scored. You don't see that too often in club matches, much less All Ireland finals.
Now, I was speaking to Jerry Carroll, and he tells me, particularly in Croke Park, he's a clock watcher. Does Martin Furlong have a look over his shoulder when he's down at the canal end at that clock, or down at the far end?
Well, I always, at every part of the game, I know what time is left in the game or how much is to go, because between umpires and the clock, you know, I always ask an umpire to throw an old watch on it, like, you know. So.
You have a serious chat with umpires. That's a
well, the fella has to talk to somebody. If you're there on your own, you
the
can't.
umpire is the nearest to you.
Yeah.
What do you talk about, Martin? What do you talk to the umpire about? Decisions?
Not so much decisions. Like, decisions are basically their own, you know. But we'd be talking about parts of the match, you know, when maybe we'd miss a bad score and you'd say, that was one we should have got, you know. And he'd probably come back, you're missing a few or something like that. Or if we were under pressure and weathered it for a while, you know, and then broke away up the field, it's you know, I might say to him, Christ, you know, we could have been worse, you know, we could have come out that worse.
Now, the penalty that day, Martin. I might as well be honest with you, I closed my eyes. I didn't see the save until that night. I said I had actually had a bet on with the chap beside me that if you saved the penalty, we'd win the All Ireland, and that's the way it worked out, I think.
Well, it helped, I'm sure. I think.
How did you go about facing this ball now? What was in your mind as Sheehy put down the ball to take the penalty?
Well, it's either him or me at that stage, and I had a fair idea of the consequences, and I also had a fair idea which side he was going to kick it. He knew that too, of course, but I was just hoping he wouldn't change his mind. But I was fairly confident. I was quite confident of it, you know, and I was happy enough, you know. I was twice as happy, of course, when I didn't win, you know.
So what advice would you give Martin Tony if you were looking in any up-and-coming goalkeeper? Or how would you go about telling Ken there what to do if there's a penalty being taken?
Well, even if I did tell him, he wouldn't probably listen. I never
I
listen.
doubt that very
I
much.
never listened to my father, and I'm sure he's not going to listen to his. Same as any kid. You
I
know,
said out that very much, but still.
what can you do? Do your best anyway. I mean, you're the last line there, and if you make a mistake in there, you pay dearly for it. And I suppose if you bring off the good one, well, then you're a hero for that week.
Would you
You know.
say that that penalty save was one of your greatest saves?
I wouldn't. How would you say? Every save is a good save, in the sense that at different times in every match, a save can have a great bearing on a game. I suppose as regards the timing of it and the occasion that was there, I suppose I'd have to.
How did you feel, Katie, at that moment in Croke Park? That day? Was there many rosaries said?
I was beside his brother Tom, and I held down my head, but Tom stood up and he kept shoving me after when it was saved and kept saying, he saved it, you're all right.
I think everyone in Offaly was of the same, although I hadn't the heart to look, to be honest. Martin, 5 minutes to go, Offaly were 3 or 4 points down. How did you feel then?
Yeah, we were 4 points down, and
Did you feel
Kerry
we had
were
lost
going-
it? Did you really feel you had lost it
no,
then?
not at that stage. We came back to 3. We got down to 3, and then Kerry shoved it to 4 again. Then I thought she was gone alright. The second time we got to 4, I thought maybe we were slipping, you know. It's always a good sign to win a team. I'd be quite happy, like if the opposition scored and Offaly went up and scored. If they came down and scored again, if Offaly went back up and scored again, well, I'd say, well, you're answering every call, like, you know, so you're there with a chance. But that's what Kerry was doing. They were 4 points up. We got them down to 3, went 4 points again. Yeah, I thought they were answering anything that we had to offer at the time. I thought she was gone then, yeah.
And even when Matt Connor went for the points from the 14-yard freeze?
Well, there was a period in between that there was no. I mean, there was a couple of minutes in between that there was no score coming, and it looked like the 4 points was enough for him. When Matt got the chance of the freeze, I think he done right with the first one. We mightn't have thought that with the second one. I thought maybe he should have had a go. Like, let's face it, none of us ever
Only
bargained.
3 minutes.
Yeah, none of us ever bargained on the goal, really. You know, but I suppose
Right, you were at
when we got the second point off the free, then well, now there was only 2. You see, and that Offaly team was playing with a different conviction altogether at that stage. You know, and Kerry were back pedaling.
No, you were at one end of the field,
Mm.
and Seamus Darby at the other end. You seen him grabbing the ball. Did you realise then it was gone into the roof of the net?
No. It was just a reaction. There was a lot of players in the way at the time, and I was a long way away, and it's hard to. Oh, and I heard the crowd roar. I knew something was
Something terrible had
brilliant
happened.
was after happening. There's no doubt. Yeah, it was
Now,
a fantastic goal. Seeing it back on video and television after, really put it away brilliantly.
Yeah, well, last Wednesday night now we had the presentation of the All-Ireland medals and your Leinster medals as well.
Mhm.
And I'm sure the question was being asked at the reception, is there another year or 2 in Martin Furlong?
Yeah, well, sure. I hope so. We'll see when the.
Have you thought about it, Martin, at any stage? Did you think about it, for instance, last year?
I
After
thought
you
about
beat
last
them?
year, yeah. I thought about last year, but possibly through disappointment. You think about it, you know, you say to hell, you know, time you went off with yourself. But I enjoying the whole game, and I'm wintering fairly well at the moment, so it depends on what sort of shape I can lick myself into now in the spring. Definitely, I expect to be available for selection. Whether I'm selected or playing well enough to be selected, that's something else. I leave that entirely with the management and selectors. That wouldn't be my decision, but I expect to be available. Anyway.
Well, there we go. Martin Furlong definitely available for next year. Well, we're here in the sitting room in Furlongs, and we're now going to have a look at some of the wonderful trophies and also the lovely presents which Martin received during, not just on account of the All-Ireland win this year, but going back to 1970, 71, 72, and even before that as well. So we're going to have a look around at some of those, and for instance we have the Carroll's All-Star Award, the Bank of Ireland All-Star Award. Getting back to that, Martin, Carroll's All-Star Award, you received one in 1972,
72,
the first one, then one 81, 81, and one now again this year. Does that mean anything to a footballer? What does it mean to Martin Furlong, an All-Star Award?
Well, I suppose it means a lot, really. You know, it means that for that year, anywhere, and whatever way you like it, that you're part of. What would you say? An elite 15 that. It's a national award, and you got to cherish it. You can't play for your country in GAA, unfortunately. I hope that's something maybe the powers that be might work on it sometime. It'll be too late for me, but however, there'll be a lot of other players that could certainly show relish donning the green jersey of Ireland to play maybe against New York selection or Australian rules selection or whatever. So the like of the All-Star Awards or something that sort of make up for that loss, you know.
So Martin Furlong throwing out the feeler there for an All-Ireland team to go out and maybe play New York or the Australian rules football, or maybe a team from London as well, who knows. But anyway, let's have a look at those wonderful presents and awards, some of them not presented to him, but some of them that Martin had to do an awful lot of goal stopping there on the last line of defence to get. Well, some of the beautiful trophies, and I suppose pride of place there in the middle, the award from RTE for the man of the match for the 1982 All-Ireland football final. Magnificent piece of crystal, and on either side of there are some other presentations which Martin has received down through the years. I see in there at the back a presentation to the Bank of Ireland, the GAA All-Stars, presented to them there in San Francisco. And as you go up along, some small cups there, perhaps Martin cherishes some of them more than any other awards because it goes back to his school days and his club days with Tullamore. And up at the very top I see a lovely little cup up there, football, San Francisco 1973. Moving down along on the mantelpiece here, we have the 1981 Bank of Ireland All-Stars Award, or a beautiful, magnificent trophy. And across from that, the official opening of Park Bridge in Clara. Well, that's very interesting indeed. The 31st of the 8th, 1980. And then we have Martin Furlong, again, congratulations Martin from New York. We have other awards there. And moving across here, the football 1972 Carroll's All-Star Trophy, when Carrolls were involved in the presentation of the All-Star Awards. I see a nice clock in there in the middle. That was presented, I think, up in Doolan's here in town in Tullamore. And of course the All-Ireland medals there and the Leinster medals belonging to Martin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, Leinster medals, 7 or 8 Leinster medals, and of course the 3 All-Ireland medals there in the centre. Numerous awards and cups and trophies. And over here on the sideboards, of course, different presentations which Martin received back as far back as 1971-72 when they won the All-Irelands then, and of course 1982 also. And just the other night in Burr, down in the County Arms in Burr, those beautiful pictures over here, and in the corner a mini football game. We're not too sure what code, but I'm sure Martin does have a great bit of sport here with the lads playing on that as well. So all in all, a magnificent display of, or really a magnificent goalkeeper. And who is there to say that he doesn't deserve any of those, because Martin Furlong in the annals of Offaly football as perhaps the greatest goalkeeper we've ever had in the annals of football here in Offaly. And so say what is it at all? The 27th, Monday the 27th, 8 days now after the All-Ireland final, and today is another memorable occasion because we have one of the famous, now very, very famous Lowry brothers who just got married today, and sitting here beside me we have Sean Lowry. I think, Sean, you're the senior member of the Lowry brothers, are you? That's the, would you mind telling me about how many Lowry brothers are in it, Sean?
I can't remember now.
Start naming them off. There's eight brothers. And is this the baby of the family?
Near enough, yeah.
Near enough. Well, tell me, Sean, well, let's move away from Sean. It's Michael's big day. Michael, how do you feel now on your wedding day today?
I wouldn't like to say what I think.
Does it compare at all with last Sunday week in Croke Park?
I was a bit more nervous last Sunday than this morning.
Well, you look really well this morning, and Margaret, I believe, is getting ready to go away somewhere on the honeymoon when we catch her in. But tell me, Sean, tell me about the Lowry family. Football, where did it all start for you and for Van?
I suppose it started very young, the same as any other family. I think we got the break from that necessary.
What do you mean by you got the breaks?
I mean, the three of us played in Ireland final, I mean, and that's a break. It's a big break. And I got a break in 72, the first year on the senior family was on Ireland. But not so many fellas get breaks like that.
Now over here to Brendan, the shy boy of the family. Brendan, last year was a great year for you. You were an all-star. How does it this year compare with last year?
It's just, and playing for this year, like we won all Ireland this year, but it's unbelievable last year. As Johnny said, I got the break. You know, I get WrestleMania and the teams were great.
We have to be speaking to you about last Sunday's All-Ireland final. What way did you feel at half-time?
We felt very confident at the beginning of the game. But half time, you know, we're 10 points down up there. You know, we're 5 minutes to go on the first half. And they got 2 points. I thought we were going to get to a full cover then.
We've asked Richie Connor and Sean, and we've asked Martin Furlong. How did you feel with 5 minutes to go?
I can tell you now, I knew we were going to win.
You're getting married to a Clara girl today. You got married to a Clara girl today. How did it all start for you? The connection between... Down the years there has been great rivalry on the football field between Forban and Clara. And I think that finished up, well it didn't really finish up today, it finished up last year, was it? Brendan really started it all up because he got married to a girl, a Clara girl as well. But where did it all start with you and Margaret? Fifth year in St. John's, that far back. So we can take it now that St. John's is the cause of the amalgamation between Clara and Forban. Or likewise. Is Margaret out there? Is she out there? Let's get her on in here. Come on in, Margaret. She'll let her sit down on these knees. I think that's the best place for her. And we might put her sitting at the samovar. You can sit down there on the edge of the table, Sean. You can see his old bones are creaking. Margaret, what's it like now to be married, not just to Michael Lowry, but Michael Lowry, All-Ireland football champion, only a week ago. Trip to America, she said, that's next year. Is there any difference? You'd have still be taking them today, whether they won or lost on last Sunday. Well done, Margaret. Is that right? Well, you've created a situation now where no longer Clara and Forban will be, shall we say, tearing into one another on the football field, and you've helped that greatly as well. Is your wife out there? Richie, where did the other girl there?
Reggie, come on.
Richie is out there at the back. What about Sean's wife? Is Sean's wife out there hiding somewhere as well? Let's have them all in there. Right, Richie, you better sit down there in these knee, okay. Right, Sean, where's your wife? Is she out there somewhere? He's not going to play with Carol, is he? Well, we let the women decide on that. A lot of people there in the background thinking some of the Lowry brothers might be feeling out with Cap. A very big, happy family. I think it deserves a nice big round of applause. Now, Sean, Brendan has been only married, what is it? 5 or 6 months. And Michael, just not even a day yet. What advice can you give the lads? that's a Lowry secret, I suppose, but maybe the girls might be able to tell us something. But anyway, congratulations once again to Michael and Margaret. You're off on the honeymoon. Would you like to tell us where you're going? Top secret, isn't it? You're hardly going back to Croke Park, are you? Or is it going to Kerry, somebody said? Congratulations to one and all. And I was just having a look at the nice bracelet here. Leinster medals, and all Leinster medals. Isn't that lovely? And you still have 4 more to go on it as well. Well, lads, what about next year? Where does it happen? I'd like to say, Mike. Brendan, would you like to comment on next year?
2 in a row.
2 in a row, and you'll be satisfied with that?
Ah, no, go on 3.
You won't say anyway, okay. Somebody, what about you, Sean?
You want to give it up? I don't know, maybe it could be 2 in a row, maybe, but I hope it's 2 in a row for me if it does happen.
And that's it from the Lowry brothers and their wives here. Congratulations once again. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to say hello to the most important cog in the Offaly football wheel over the last 6 years. Eugene McGee, you're very welcome to our little synopsis of Offaly the Champions 1982, Eugene. The first question I want to ask you is, where did football start in the life of Eugene McGee?
It started when I was a student in UCD. I was secretary of the club there, and I eventually got into helping the captain who used to run the team there. He still does, but I got into helping him and so on, being a selector, and from there it developed really. I found that I was reasonably good at communicating with players, and it kind of snowballed from there. So I had a good spell in UCD. Won the All-Ireland Club Championship twice, and the Dublin Championship 3 times, and that's where really where it developed for me.
Had you any interest in football at home in Longford, Eugene?
I had a great interest, but I wasn't much good, so I couldn't even get on my own senior club team. But I had a great interest. I lived near the Cavan border, a couple of miles from Cavan, and when I was a kid, Cavan were a powerful team. We always followed Cavan, so football was a very big factor in our life.
And so that was Cavan, Longford, UCD. When did Offaly come into the picture, Eugene?
In August 1977, I got a phone call one day from Father Heaney. I had never heard of Father Heaney before that, but he told me who he was, and he just said he wanted to ask me to take over the Offaly football team. He said they had, the county board had decided to go for an outsider. And I was one of the people who was being asked, if any of the others been asked as well, so it was a vote from the blue for me, so I said give me a call in a week and see. So I thought about it for a week, and I decided to take it then. I'd say Kevin Chamorri had something to do with it, because I'd say he played on the main UCD and the All-Ireland club with us. I'd say he might have suggested to Father Heaney. I never asked Kevin, but I assume he did suggest to Father Heaney that he approached me.
So after 7 days then of thought, you decided to move to Offaly. When you first met the Offaly team at the time, what were your feelings? Did you have ambitions straight away to win perhaps a Leinster or an All-Ireland then?
Well, unfortunately, I was presented with a team that had just been relegated, first time in 40 years. So it was a big come down from 5 years earlier when they won the All-Ireland. But I saw it. My ambition then, I thought it would have been fantastic then to win a Leinster Senior Championship. You know, for me it would have been tremendous. So we set our sights on winning Leinster. Now Dublin were cock of the walk then. They were really top dogs and won the All-Ireland that year anyway. So the first match I had with Offaly was in Clonbelogue actually. I remember well the challenge match against opening new pitch at Clonbelogue. I never heard of Clonbelogue. I had to look at the map to find out how to get there. And we beat the Kildare under-21 team. They were in the All-Ireland semi-final. And it was a very mixed bag. I remember Willie Bryan was full forward. And there were a lot of big names on it, but there were a lot of new names as well. I had to meet 4 new selectors as well who I'd never heard or seen before. And basically I had no say in the picking of the panel the first year, because I didn't know any from players in the county. I more or less acted on the advice of the other selectors. And we were lucky enough, we got promotion at the end of our first league campaign, and that was a big boost. But it was a long, long way from there to here, as the same as
Who were the stars of the Offaly team then? Did any new stars come on the scene in your first year, Eugene?
Well, Offaly had been beaten in the Leinster Minor final in 1977, just a week after I was invited to take over, the week on the Sunday in between. and very unluckily beaten, and Dublin went on to, I think, win the Ireland that year. But on that team were people like Jerry Carroll, Johnny Mooney, Thomas Connor, Vincent Henry, and I pushed those players onto the panel. They were the only players I pushed onto the panel. And there was a lot of criticism. I started with criticism more from the word go, because people objected that they'd been on so young, but I decided to push them on then, and they were the new players then. We had Willie Bryan and Paddy Fenny, Eugene Mulligan, people like that. There was about 6 or 7 of the 72 teams still there, and 4 or 5 of the minors, and 4 or 5 others that I didn't know much about. I think Richie Connor was there, and Mick Fitzgerald probably, but I didn't know any of those fellas at the time. I didn't know who they were at all.
You moved back into the first division, and when did the fruits start, or did they start bearing fruit? When your first success then in the Leinster Championship?
Well, of course, we won the Leinster Under 21 in 1977. That was a huge boost. 78, so we beat Kildare. Kildare were hot favourites, so we beat them in Portlaoise. That was the first sign of life. Then in 78, then we nearly beat Dublin. We were going for 3 in a row at the time. We nearly beat them in Portlaoise, that famous game in Portlaoise. That's the first time that the Offaly public really thought there was something going. I remember they gave us a standing ovation at half time. We were very unfortunate to win that game. That was the first. Then we got to the final the next year, of course. Lost by a goal in the last second. As everybody knows by now, like I saw the banner at the final, McGee's famous 6 steps. Each year we advance 1 step further. So it has been a perfectly.
Okay, Eugene, we're here now in 82, and you've reached the pinnacle now. As one paper said on Sunday last, you marched to Mount Everest last Sunday with your team. How did you feel at half-time? We've been asking a lot of the players about this. I know before the game you were pretty confident. Tell us about that.
At half-time I thought we had the game. I thought we were going to win because we had exposed, we'd blown the Kerry mid sky high. We'd scored 10 points against them. We took the lead 10 times in the first half, which was incredible. Kerry came back every time, but we were the ones who got the lead point every time. Kerry never led us in the first half. Now in 5 minutes or 3 minutes from the end of the first half, we led 10-7, and we should have gone in that way. But for a lapse of concentration, gave them 1 point and a very harsh free against Liam Connor, gave them another one. So it should have been 10-7 at half time. But even at 10-9, the atmosphere and the rest of it at half time was just electric. The players, they couldn't wait to get out because they knew they had it.
Well, I was sitting in the Hogan stand beside some very ardent Kerry supporters last Sunday, and when Kerry went 4 points ahead, they were waiting for this goal to come. How did you feel at that stage?
I thought we could still get a draw even when they were 4 up, because I thought, especially when they began to foul, I thought we'd get the 4 points that might give us a draw. But the second time they went 4 ahead, when I looked at the watch, I think there was 5 minutes left. I said, it looks as if we've had it here now, because time was going to beat us. But we were playing good football at that time, but I thought time would beat us.
Now there have been a lot of comments regarding the refereeing and the standard of refereeing in the All-Ireland series. Particularly some of the Kerry paper, particularly the Kerry Man, the paper itself, which came out on Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble here, but however, getting back to that question, I was just asking Eugene about reports in the Kerry Man paper. For the first time ever, they sent a newspaper van into Offaly last Friday to distribute their version of Offaly stopping Kerry on their historical trip for the 5 in a row. And most of the referee called back Sean or Seamus Darby and gave a free out.
No, I wouldn't agree, because he did push him, yeah, but the fact is Tommy Doyle slightly misread that ball. He came out too far, and there was nothing he could do. It was too late to get back. Basically, Tommy isn't a corner back. He's basically a forward. He found himself jumping for a ball on his own square at the last minute of an Ireland final, and it was a very unusual situation for him. And he got a nudge, all right, but I don't think the nudge had any effect, because after all, Tommy is a big man. Seamus Darby just gave him a slight nudge. Anyway, even if he did nudge him, it wouldn't compensate for some of the decisions in the first half against us.
It has also been said that Mick Dwyer and his selectors made an awful mistake by calling Jack O'Shea and indeed some of the half forwards back to defend in the last 5 or 6 minutes. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree or disagree because Mick O'Dwyer to me has been a marvellous trainer, and it's easy to be smart when you win, but you know he's in my opinion he's one of the best trainers ever. Whatever they did it in good faith. I think, to be fair to the Kerry dugout, I think Jack O'Shea took those decisions himself. I don't think he was told to do that. I think he took it upon himself. He saw that the back line was struggling and he went back to help. It didn't work, but you know that's another day's work. But there wasn't much the Kerry dugout could do. I think they had to help out. Their defence was floundering in that stage. They were going from bad to worse.
Did it just happen, or did our half backline get the instructions to go forward as often as possible, as they did during the game?
Every player on the Offaly team in St. Martin Corlin was told to attack. If the full back could score, he was supposed to score. That was our policy, and we didn't care how many scores we gave away. We gave away 17 scores, which I think is an all-time record for a winning team. We still won because our policy was get as many scores as you can and forget about the number you concede. But last year, we did the opposite. We went out to stop Kerry scoring on. We stopped them fairly well, but we didn't score ourselves. So this year we decided to do the exact opposite. That was the winning and losing the game. It's not about that.
In actual fact, Offaly have gone into the history books, I believe, Eugene, because there were 17 scores scored against them, and Offaly scored 16, and yet they came out winners. And I believe there's something about the statistics of that one. Now, about football in Offaly in general, Eugene, where do you think it stands in comparison to the other counties?
Well, it's really on a high. I mean, they've been in the last 4 Leinster finals. They've won 3 of them. They've been in the last 2 All-Ireland finals and won 1 of them. They surely must be favourites to come out of Leinster again, if not win the All-Ireland next year. The average age of the team is 24 and a half. The average age of the Kerry team, I think, was 26 or 27. So, unless, you know, it all depends on the players, but if the players have the right attitude now, as they've had all along, if they don't get big-headed, if they look after themselves physically and are in good shape come next spring, you know, there's several years football left in that Offaly team. There's nothing about it. They should be at or near the top for several years. I wouldn't like to see them win 3 or 4 Irelands in a row, even if they're good enough. I think it's bad for the game. I think their aim should be to be at or near the top for 4 or 5 years and maybe win another All-Ireland somewhere along the line, but not to be dominated. When you dominate the team, the public turns against you, as they did against Kerry.
Now, with next year's All-Ireland series, Offaly coming through Leinster and Kerry perhaps coming out of Munster, it will be Offaly and Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. Who do you think will be in the other All-Ireland semi-final next year?
I'd say Galway and down. So I'd say you'll have Galway in the All-Ireland final and somebody else playing them.
You made a remark last Sunday after the game regarding Galway that you were lucky, but however you won it, and that's the sign of a good team winning against the run of play.
We were lucky because we didn't spend much time thinking about Galway. We were kind of looking ahead to the final. We figured all along this year we'd be in the final against Kerry, and I think we didn't pay enough attention to Galway, and we almost paid the penalty. And we could have paid the penalty, yeah. But had the game ended in a draw, I think we'd have won the replay by 5 or 6 points.
Now another question: how do you think Galway would have fared out? That's kind of an unfair one, I suppose. But how would Galway have fared out against Kerry, do you think?
I don't think they'd have beaten them because it would be their first time playing them in the championship, and Kerry would be too cute for them. After all, this is our 3rd time playing them, and we learned a lot from each game. And Galway would have played them the first time. I don't think they would have been good enough. They're a good team and a coming team, but wouldn't have been able to Kerry this year.
With the Football League coming up now during the winter months, Eugene, what sort of a team will you be fielding?
Well, I don't know. First of all, I don't know who will be fielding the team for a start, but you know, I assume that Offaly will try and field the strongest team in all the games because it's a prestigious stake now. But at the same time, there are 4 or 5 players who have to be blooded in, and I hope they'll get games as well. I think if you could field about 11 or 12 of the best, the number 1 team all the time, and give a game to 3 or 4 others, that'd be the correct approach.
Well, is there a little tinkle there in the back of your mind that you have given serious thought to opting out perhaps for a while, or are there other challenges on the horizon for Eugene McGee?
I'm doing a lot of thinking, but I have no comment to make. But I think everybody knows well that I'd be a fool not to do some thinking now and so on, because I've done all I can do with it. I could never outdo what I did last Sunday week. It was the biggest All-Ireland final of the last 25 years, and we won it, and I was lucky enough to be in charge. So it'd be, you know, what do you do for an encore?
How do you motivate a team, Eugene? Very briefly now, perhaps I know it's an unfair question, to go out and win an All-Ireland final. People are wondering, what exactly did you say in the dressing room at half-time or before the game started at all? Let's hear Eugene McGee talking to an All-Ireland football team right now.
presume this is a family program, so you just can't hear it.
So there were strong words spoken to the team before and during the game. Well, Eugene, we wish you lots of luck in 83, and if you decide not to go forward again, well, football will be the loss for Eugene McGee, and we'd like to thank you very much for saying those few short words with us here. I just want to say something else before we finish up.
I'd just like to thank all the people in Offaly, like the men and women and children who, they give such colossal support to the team, not just this year, but the last few years when we were losing. When we lost some games, because it means so much to the players to know that the public are behind them. There have been detractors to the team, but they were a tiny minority of loudmouths who always have all the answers, but if they were in charge of the team themselves, as some of them were in the past, they mightn't have any answers. So 99% of the Offaly public were behind us all along the line. I hope we give them a good enjoyment. That'll be my legacy to Offaly football, that we give them 4 years of great enjoyment. And I have very happy memories of my time in Offaly. The Offaly public were fantastic.
Thank you very much, Eugene. And I think after last Sunday, I think that 99% has become over 100%. Thank you very much. Right, we're still on the trail of Offaly footballers, All-Ireland champions 1982, but with a little slight change this time, because we've got Offaly hurlers All-Ireland champions 81 here, and Offaly footballer and hurler champion 81-82. We've Liam Currams over here on my left, your right as you're looking at us, and beside him we have the trainer of the Offaly football team, and also of course an All-Ireland medal holder for the Offaly hurlers 81. And here beside me on the right we have Stephen Darby. Everyone makes a mix-up between Stephen and Seamus, but this is Stephen, who was introduced in the first half of the All-Ireland final last Sunday, coming in for Michael Lowry. But right now we're going straight over to Tom Donohoe. Tom, as you know, or maybe you don't know, is not an Offaly man at all. Tom, tell us about the part of Ireland that you come from.
It's a place called Esker, Athenry, County Galway. And I hear there's an Esker in Offaly as well, out near Mount Lucas, so we have that much in common. We had that before I came to the county. We had an Esker in Offaly and an Esker in Galway.
Tom, you were going into last Sunday's game as trainer of the Offaly football team with an All-Ireland hurling medal in your back pocket from the previous year. How did you feel about Offaly's approach to Kerry in this year's All-Ireland final?
Much more calm, I'd say, and collected than last year. Eugene convinced every Offaly player, down to, I'd say, number 24, even Ollie Minnock. I'd say he convinced Ollie Minnock that he was a better man on crutches than Owen Liston was when he wasn't able to play in the 1918 final against Roscommon. He convinced them, every man. Last year, I suppose, it was that bit harder to convince. The players held these Kerry men in a sort of awe. They looked up to them. This year, they didn't fear Kerry. They said, we can do it. I can beat my men. Eugene said to each player, the betting was 7-1. That was the average bet, 7-1 on Kerry. He said, is Martin Furlong 7 times worse than Charlie Nidigan? Is Liam Connor 7 times worse than Owen Liston? And by God, he convinced them that they were 7 times better.
Now, what sort of response did you get from the Offaly players this year in their training?
Unbelievable response. I came in 79, Ricey, and it was hard going. It's been a hard slog all the way. We're out in the wet and the dirt, up the hill and road last April, and I asked guys to sprint to exhaustion up that hill, and they did so. And there's a man sitting on my right here, Stephen Darby, and he would start at the bottom, flat out sprint, 350 yards up the hill, and he'd reach the top before any of them. And that was the inspiration to me. Sean Lowry might only go 250 yards, and guys would pick him up and say, Sean, you've got to go on and walk the other 100 yards. That was the win of the All-Ireland as far as I'm concerned.
There was a story going around Offaly, I actually heard it myself, where you were training over in Roll, running up this famous hill, and Jerry Carr, you were training for the first round of the Offaly Championship, and Jerry Carr was supposed to have faltered somewhere up along, and he says, turning back to both yourself and Eugene, he says, look at it, he says, if we keep at this, we won't be able to play next Sunday. And McGee was supposed to have replied, he says, you're not training for next Sunday, you're training for next September to win the All-Ireland football final Is there any fact in that story?
I'd say this is, Eugene and I, we planned it all the way. We always discussed how we train, how the coaching would go. Now, like Eugene was coach, I was supposed to be trainer, but we always had cross tactics. Like I might try to advise Eugene and he taught me an awful lot about training. I'd gone 4 years to college and I'd learned a fair bit, but I've learned an awful lot from Eugene as regards training. And we always had this plan, from last year we had the plan, we're looking ahead. Eugene says this year early on, we'll do heavy work early on and then we'll ease them off and then we'll try and go back heavy again for the build up for the All-Ireland Championship, and then we eased them off the last 2 weeks. And I'd say the rest we gave the players in the fortnight beforehand was probably the winning of it. Mick Fitzgerald said to me when I'd gone out to training, he says, I'd feel happier if we did a harder session. He felt he wasn't doing enough himself. Even though he was running himself into the ground, he still wanted more. We nearly had to convince the players that they had it all done at this stage, and they had to ease off. Their appetite was incredible.
Right, moving over here to Stephen Darwin. Yes, well, we have the wonders of television there, because with a quick flick of the switch, all of a sudden now Tom Donoghue is sitting where Stephen Darby was, and Stephen Darby is over here sitting beside me. And Tom isn't too happy about it, he says, knocking him out of the chairman's position. Stephen, your football career took a couple of ups and downs through injuries and things like that. You must have been very, very happy to be called on and to be part of the team, and particularly to be coming in the football final. What way did you feel before the game started as a sub sitting on the bench under the Cusick stand?
Well, for a few days before the match I felt confident that I would be brought in at some stage during the game. Then as the match started and Liam Curms went up and got his first point, I turned around to Seamus and I said that I think I'd better go in and put on my trousers because that was enough. There was no chance of me getting in there. And then Pat Fitzgerald got his point and I said I might as well relax. And I was quite relaxed with about 20 minutes gone, and Eugene McGee called on me to go in, and I honestly didn't know where I was going in at that stage. I was up in a dither straight away, but I hadn't time to think at that stage, and from there until the end of the game I remember very little of the game as such.
It was just a case of Johnny Egan, was it, on your mind from then on?
That's about it, and when you were putting a player of the calibre of Johnny Egan, you don't take too much time to look at the score or look at the time that's left or to encourage lads on. In fact, after Seamus got the goal, I hadn't even time to shout. I was more worried after he got the goal than before we got the goal.
Well, tell me about your injuries, Stephen. How did they fare out over the last couple of years?
This year has been my best year, I suppose, over the last 4 years with injury to my knee. 79 was a good year for me. Then October 79 I got injured and left me out until the following April or May. I had a fairly good year then, but ever since I've been plagued with the knee injury, and it's very hard to recover from a knee injury. That a knee, I think, or an ankle is an injury that will last with you for the days while you were playing a game. So my left knee will never be as good as my right knee, but I don't mind at this stage. I've got an All-Ireland medal, and if I could bag a few more in the process, I would put up with the knee that I've got at the moment.
Well, tell me, Stephen, two brothers sit on the sideline or meet one another during the weeks previous to a game. Do you discuss tactics, or do you discuss anything about the game in general at all?
Well, any time that Seamus and I had met the weeks leading up to the final, naturally enough we discussed the game and our chances of coming in at any stage during the game. Both of us were hoping that we would end up on an All-Ireland winning team. I felt more sure that Seamus would be brought in than I would, and then I was sprung upon from the dugout early in the game. I didn't know if Seamus would be brought in at any stage or not, but it was certainly a dream come true for both of us. It was both both of us, that is all that we had ever wanted in our footballing career, and I'm sure that our father was very pleased that evening, last Sunday week.
Were you, up to last Sunday, were you a little bit jealous of Seamus having that All-Ireland medal over you? Or did that enter your head at all, more or less as a joke or something like that, that your turn was coming up now to get one also?
No, I wouldn't be jealous of anybody, but least of all my brother. Seamus had been a sub. He had been out of the limelight for the last 5 or 6 years. I know that I always felt that there was more football in Seamus than there ever was in me, and I always wanted to get an All-Ireland medal to be near enough to being on par with him. The way he came back this year was rather spectacular, and in 2 games he has redeemed himself over the last 4 years. I'm happy that he has come back in the way he has, and I certainly don't feel jealous or selfish that he has got one the same as I have this year. He deserves it, I think.
Well done, Stephen Darby there. Now, you said earlier on, of course, that you were a bit disappointed, of course, when Liam Kearns came up and got his point. So we have Liam sitting beside you. So with the magic of television again, we're just going to do a little like that. And all right, here we have now, sitting in the chair that Tom Donoghue was sitting in, and of course Stephen Darby, Liam Kearns, the history maker, because after last Sunday, Liam now becomes, I think it is the 14th person in the games, in Gaelic games, to win an All-Ireland hurling and football medal. I think it's your 14th on the list now, Liam. And how do you feel about a thing like that happening to you?
Well, I take it from the top. I believe there's plenty of guys around that could have done what I've achieved in the last couple of years, but they didn't get the breaks, you know. I believe I was on a good team last year with the hurlers and this year with the footballers. I believe there's plenty of guys around with the talent that I have that they could have done the same, didn't get the breaks, you know. And that's the way it is.
Well, you're still very young, Liam. What about next year? A lot of people are already talking about now that 83 could be the year for the double here in Offaly. How do you feel about that? And what way are you going to look at it over the winter months now, with the hurlers looking for you and the footballers, and history facing you maybe in 1983?
I think I'll enjoy the success we have at the moment and won't look too far into the future.
You're really avoiding that one. We haven't asked Stephen, I meant to ask him, but I'll ask you, Liam. What do you think of Tom Donoghue? He's here behind us, you're laughing away. Is he that cruel that he made it out to be driving you up the hills there, over the road up Croghan Hill and a few places like that?
No, I believe Tom is a good trainer. He's the type of fella, you know, he does the thing well in so far as he doesn't tire you out during the training. The thing is varied a lot. Every night you do, it's not the same every night we're training. Tom, you see, he's changed the thing around and it's something new every night you tug out training.
Well, it must be great for Tom to say after 3 years, I think it was 1979, Tom, I think it was when you took over, was it? So more or less 3 years now and still coming up with new ideas. I think that takes a lot of doing.
It takes a lot of doing. You know, it's hard training every night for months. You start in March and you go on for 3 or 4 months there, and you're like, it's hard. And Tom gets thick with fellas in training, and he gets thick with me, and he gets thick with all other people. But that's the way, you know. It takes a lot of doing to win, and success is sweet in the end, I'll tell you.
Liam, we're just gone. Yes, I'd like to ask you the $64,000 question, really. I suppose lots of people have asked you it, so there's no harm in asking you now. Where does your allegiance really lie? Which comes first, football or hurling? I know it's a very, very unfair question, particularly after winning the All-Ireland football final last Sunday, but you also have All-Ireland hurlers medal, and now and again you will have to make decisions during the coming year. So I'm sure a lot of the viewers out there would like to know where your allegiance really lies. I know it lies with the GAA itself, but as regards hurling and football, I hear somebody there in the background. You're proud of it.
Sorry, Vic Connor in the background, Lachi himself in the background saying, don't answer it. You'll have to answer that one, Lee.
No, I'd put it on the line straight away. Ireland is my first love, it always has been. Even if I wasn't even playing for the county, if I don't even make it great at home in the club, I'd be quite happy to play hurling all my life, because I think it's one of the most brilliant games in the world. There's so much skill in it and so much enjoyment of it and so much crack in it. It's brilliant. But I believe of all the sport I've been involved with throughout my life, I'm young yet, but going over Kerry, you know, playing against Kerry is great, but to play Kerry in a final and to beat them by a goal in the last seconds is unbelievable. You know, if you dream about things like that, it's something that say you're crazy. You know.
Now, you had a trip out to America with the hurlers last year and the All-Stars. Are you looking forward now to the one next year with the footballers, the Offaly footballers this time?
Yeah, you can sing that one. Yeah. I was out there last May with the hurlers, and it was an enjoyable trip. It's a great place to stay at, you know. But I believe the crowd that's going out now next May is a little bit somewhat different compared to the hurlers. You know, they're a little bit on the wild side of it. I reckon it's going to be some trip.
Is that the wild side or the wild side? I think it's
Well, here we are now, viewers, with wave to Mammy out there. Somebody says here we are with Pádraig Dunn here on my left and John Guinan on my right. Well, Pádraig, it's all over now. All-Ireland champions, 1982. Getting back to the All-Ireland final, how did you feel on the Saturday night before the game?
Well, I felt quite confident, I suppose, because we met with all the rest of the lads, and everyone was in a great mood, and you know, there was great air of confidence over the whole team, and just the talk before and everything. You know, we were no one seemed to be too nervous or anything.
No, before you went out on the field in Croke Park, yourself and Tomas, had you decided who was going to mark Jack O'Shea, or did you decide to play your own game and let the Kerry centre field do their marking on you?
Well, we decided that Tomas would mark Jack O'Shea, and that if they didn't want that, if Jack O'Shea wanted to say mark me or Shawnee Walsh or whatever way it worked out, we weren't going to make too much of a fuss about it. We didn't really care that much, you know.
Were you nervous on the day of the game? Just
no,
before the referee threw in the ball?
Not really. Just a bit nervous, I suppose, that morning, and just going up. But when you get out in the crowd and everything, you know, you forget all about it. You don't mind.
John, your first All-Ireland final, how did you feel?
I was very nervous.
Very nervous. I often meant to ask footballers how they felt when the national anthem has been played. That's real stickler type of time.
Yeah, there was a bit much this year because there was a minute silence as well before that, which had more in the mind for somewhere or another, and we were standing for a while there and we were just thinking about the whole of it. And
did the thought of defeat ever go through your mind at that stage?
No, not at that stage.
Did you think you would beat Kerry?
Yeah, did.
Pádraig, how did you feel with about 5 or 6 minutes to go?
I don't know.
You don't remember.
I know Philip and Darby got the goal, alright, but
did you actually see the goal being scored?
I didn't see it leaving his boot, but I saw it hitting the corner of the net. Nearly died. How about Darby dancing? Did a jig.
There were still a couple of minutes left. Did you know at that stage there were only 2 minutes left?
I thought there was a bit longer left than that, and I just said to myself, you know, get down to our end of the field and, you know, stop them, because they were going and attacking. I just put my head down and ran for. There was 3 or 4 or 5 was in the goals, and the ball was crossed, the lower he got. I wouldn't know where they were going to score. Yeah.
Well, 82 was a great year for you now, an All-Ireland Winners' Medal, Bank of Ireland All-Stars Award, and also the B&I Award, Footballer Award as well. Do you think 82 will perhaps go down as one of your best years ever, or is there something better to come?
I suppose, good, lucky and everything.
Will it be a bonus if Offaly win the 83, the All-Ireland in 83 for you?
Yeah. Sure, we won't anyway, so won't make any. So the All-Stars I'm worried about.
John, the second half, we know you were taken off, but we think your efforts during the second half got 3 very, very, very valuable points, I think it was, for Offaly, or at least 2. There's 2 frees, 2 points came off of you.
There was, yes. There was 2 frees coming near the end of the second half, coming near the end of the game.
And Matt Conner put them over the bar.
He did.
How did you feel about him going for points at that stage?
I didn't mind, like, because like point by point we're bringing it back down. Like, there was only 3 or 4 points in it. He scored 2 points. Like, there was only 2 points in it. And, like, the goal did finish it off. Like, a goal like that could have come from any type, any of the forwards. Like, they were quite capable of getting a goal like
Now,
that.
the question we must all ask you, how did you feel about going off?
Well, at the moment, the man placing got the winner, so I don't mind.
So if you didn't go off, you don't think off, you might have got that goal. It's all
well,
up in the air anyway,
but
we'll
you know,
never know.
I don't mind once we won. Like, it's a team effort.
Exactly.
You know, that's why you knew we'd win All Ireland. We didn't mind who was to replace who or what was to be done. We just going to win it. That was it. No matter what had to be done.
And you're looking forward to America now?
I am, yeah.
This be your first trip out there?
No.
You've been there before?
Yeah.
Good. What about you, Paul?
This is my first time out, but I know all about it, Guinan. As well
He has you well
informed.
informed. Well, lads, best of luck to you in 83 anyway. Hope you bring back the Sam Maguire again, and hope you enjoy your stay in America. Right, we're into a very, very complicated situation at the moment because people all over Offaly differ in one particular question that's always asked. I'm sitting here with the 4 Connors, or old Connors, so we're going to decide now once and for all who's an O'Connor and who's a Connor among the O'Connors and the Connors of the Offaly team. I have Matt Connor, Richie Connor, Tomas and Liam here. So we'll ask Richie to let us all know who's who in the O'Connor clan.
Those 2 are brothers.
And
we're 2 brothers.
And you're 2 brothers. So once and for all, Matt and Richie are brothers, and Tomas and Liam are brothers. But then somebody else will probably tell me now that Liam and Richie are brothers, and Tomas. Is that right, is it? Have you got it right this time? You're twins. Okay, lads, getting serious. It's been a great year for you in 1982, hasn't it, Richie?
Yeah, sure. I suppose we all dreamt of winning All Ireland medal, and turned out that way this year. As well as that, the club had a fairly successful year, so all in all, it was a very good year.
5 in a row for Welsh Island.
5 in a row, yeah. There was a stage we thought we'd never win one, so you know that was great too. But the great success, of course, was All Ireland in September. You know, it's something that we've often talked about. We'd love to win one, going back years, travelling in cars together and that, you know. So it finally materialised, came together this year. So we're all happy.
Now, Tomas, you tell me about the O'Connor connection. 2 sets of brothers, first cousins, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
What way?
Well, fathers are brothers and our mothers are sisters as well, so we're double first cousins.
Double first cousins in both ways.
That's right.
Richie, you're captain of the Offaly team, of course, and always accepted as the daddy of the O'Connor clan. Are you the eldest of the brothers and of the cousins, are you?
No, Liam's the oldest.
Liam is the oldest?
Yeah.
And he doesn't look the oldest, does he?
No, baby.
Do you, Liam? No. I think everyone calls him baby. That's Porrick on in the background anyway. Matt, getting back to early on this year, after being defeated in last year's All-Ireland final, did you think early on, around about March, April, that you were going to meet Kerry in an All-Ireland final and beat them? Did you honestly think that was on the cards?
Well, we had a fairly good league campaign. We got to the semi-final, the best we did in a few years, and we're looking good. And we didn't really look really good until the Leinster Championship. We started into the Leinster Championship. We looked like it then, and we kept getting better as we went on, you know. And eventually, at the time at the All-Ireland final, we're at our best, and we made it.
Tomas, you were in last year's All-Ireland final and had to go off through injury.
Yeah.
Now, how did you feel about preparing for this year's All-Ireland final? Did that cross your mind at any stage before you met Kerry in the All-Ireland final?
Yeah, I'd say the last match we had, I can't remember who the challenge match was now. I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, was this going to be the same as last year, you know? Was I going to get an injury? Because that was the time it happened last year. But luckily enough, it didn't come through, you know, so I got an injury-free run this year.
And how did you feel about Mark and Jack O'Shea in the All-Ireland final?
I didn't mind Mark and Jack O'Shea. There's much of a muchness really who marked who, you know. I think both players have their strengths. So I mean, Porrick and myself, well, we decided I'd mark Jack O'Shea, Porrick marked Sean Walsh, but we didn't really care if it worked out the other way around, you know. We were happy enough.
Now, Liam, you were the man that was supposed to defuse the bomb, and you certainly did. How did you go about it? Did you think much the weeks beforehand about meeting the bomber in the All-Ireland final?
I thought about him okay, but nothing that special, you know. I guess he suits me more maybe than a smaller player, you know. at least I was the same height as him, well, nearly. So I found him, you know, I had played him before, so I knew what to expect. So I was hoping the rest of the team would click, you know. And
So you were
they
quite
did.
confident.
Yeah. There was an air of confidence, I think, especially after the Galway match. There was a great feeling in the camp, you know. The lads just felt that they could do it, you know.
Were you lucky against Galway, Richie, or had Offaly and off there? Were Galway a good team?
Well, I suppose we could have been beaten, but at the same time it would have been very unfortunate if we had been beaten. I think it was a very peculiar sort of a game. We went in at half-time only a pint down, and we were going to go out in the second half playing with a mighty wind. And as it turned out, we failed to get the few scores early in the second half that would have given us confidence. Actually, Galway got the first pint in the second half, and then we played a very frustrating type of football. You know, making very bad mistakes, kicking bad balls, and the second half dragged on then, and Galway could have won. They could have got a few scores there towards the end, and they could have sneaked the victory. But I'd say if we had been beaten, we would really have regretted it. You know, I think we were probably the better team, all right, but we nearly had slipped that day, and we'd never have forgiven ourselves if we had. But it was just the day that I was in it, I suppose. The wind dominated that game, and it just led to frustration, really. We'd been used in training that to playing under ideal conditions out in Ballycommon, and fellas were kicking scores from all angles, and all of a sudden we were put into Croke Park with a swirling wind, and even when it was with us, fellas were still making mistakes and that, you know, and kicking bad balls and that, and one thing led to another, and I think we could have went 20 minutes without getting a score, even with that wind behind our backs, I think. You know.
Matt, do you think Johnny Mooney coming back into the Offaly team was a big asset?
It made an awful difference altogether. He was an awful asset to the forward line, and he was a great ball winner. And every time midfielders or half-backs looked up, they could just place it into Johnny, and Johnny usually got it and fed the rest of the forwards. And it wasn't until he came back that we really started playing well, you know.
Liam, getting back to you, seemingly the oldest of the O'Connor brothers, to tell me, I'm not too sure about this, whether I'm being conned or not. Where did it all start for the O'Connors out in Welsh Island? Did you all play together on the school teams?
Oh, we did, yeah. We played all the underage teams and everything, and we often played up in Richie's house in the evenings, and we often had Mick and Pat Fitzgerald with us as well, you know. We had many a good game up there, you know. So it started really when we were kids, 6, 7 even, you know.
So all in all, with the two Fitzgeralds and the 4 Connors, you had a nice little school team in Welsh Island at the time, Richie?
Yeah, well, Pat played with us all right, but they just came, I think the Fitzgeralds just came to that area when Mick was gone on. He was about 15, Pat was about 13, I think, you know. So we never had Mick playing with us, with Welsh Island as a school player. Yeah, we were very fortunate. I'd say we were very lucky going to a national school that had a teacher who was completely committed to football and hurling, Donald Dunn, and like we owe him an awful lot. Like football was just part of the school day. We just accepted, like, there are schools where no balls kicked, but we just thought that it was part of the school life that you brought on your football boots, went out every day, lunchtime, stayed behind it after school, some evenings, you know, different hours being brought away for challenge matches all around, and you know, it paid its dividends. Then we won under 12 championships, under 14 championships. We even won a hurling, under 14 hurling championship, and it was all due to Donald Dunn, and even Donald went then, and the next teacher that came, Vincent Ryan, Matt was there at that time. Like, he also had a tremendous interest in football, and the school has been lucky that way, you know, and it sort of gave the boys grounding, and we just took football as being part of our lives. The same then when we went down under 16, that the club, there's a tradition in the club, just football tradition, and PJ Mann was looking after under 16 teams, minor teams, and it was natural that we were going to be playing football all the time anyway. Whether we were good enough now is another thing, but football is going to be played anyway.
So, Moss, do the O'Connors sit down on a night before a game and talk it out among themselves?
I wouldn't say, not particularly O'Connors, you know. We always, before any of the big matches, we have a meeting, a team meeting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it depends. Mostly I'd say you'd get together with your own, like myself and Pádraig Dunn maybe if we're playing centre field, or Richie with the backs, and massive forwards. I wouldn't say we stick together sort of as a unit to talk among ourselves,
Now we'll take this year for instance. Now Welsh Island going for what Kerry were going for in September, Welsh Island going for a 5 in a row in October, November. Was there pressure on you to win that one, or did you just want to go out, and did you feel the same way about it as you did about winning your first one 5 years ago?
Well, I'd say to win the first one was a different thing, because at that stage we didn't know what it's like to win a championship, and that's our aim, was to win a championship, and we didn't really believe we ever could, Whereas this year we knew we could win championships. There was a lot of pressure put on with the 5 in a row, like people were talking about Kerry, and then of course Seamus Darby was playing with Road as well, which sort of heightened the thing. But there was a lot of pressure put on about the 5 in a row, but I'd say it was a lot different than the first one in that we knew what we were capable of, and we knew probably if we lost it would be our own mistakes. Whereas our first one we were, a bit unsure. You didn't know what to expect, whether we ever be capable of winning the championship or not,
Now Liam, 1983, how do you think Offaly are going to fare out? Will they win the All-Ireland?
Well, it won't be from want of effort anyway. I think I think all the lads we've worked for 5-6 years to get one, So I can't see anybody giving up easily,
Do you think you're going to have a hard programme in Leinster?
I think we'll have a very hard programme in Leinster, I think, this year, because when you are champions, everybody wants to beat you, and it puts that extra pressure on you.
And who do you think you're going to meet in the All-Ireland final?
Oh, I don't know. Sure, we'll beat them anyway, whoever they are.
What about you, Tomas? Do you give Galway a chance of being there in the All-Ireland final next year, because Connacht and Ulster will play? You'll probably be meeting Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, I would say Galway probably would be the most likely. Ulster teams haven't been great of latter years, so and I would say Galway will come out of Connacht again. So I'd say.
Richie, he says Ulster teams haven't been that great yet. Armagh have put up a great league campaign at the moment, beating yourselves and Kerry as well. So how do you fancy their chances next year, coming out of Ulster and perhaps maybe beating Galway in Connacht in the semi-final?
Yeah, well, it's hard to know,
Or are you still afraid of Kerry? Do you think Kerry will be a force next year?
I'm afraid of Wicklow or Longford in the first round. Not serious, it's a long road. Just 2 years ago, Westmeath could have beaten us in Mullingar, and the earlier rounds of the championship last year were as unsure as we had a great Leicester final, but some of the earlier rounds against Laois here in Tullamore, so every game is tricky really, and it's hard. You just can't really forecast an easy run, or for that matter write off teams. I wouldn't like to write off northern teams either. They have great ability to put great effort into a game, and I think they're a little overawed or lack confidence when they come to Croke Park. But one of these years, I think a team's going to come down and they're just going to hit it, much like Offaly did last year in the All-Ireland final. They're going to hit one of their days, and if we do happen to come out of Leinster and we do happen to beat the Munster champions, I wouldn't, and we're meeting an Ulster team, I wouldn't take them for granted at all. It's just, every game's a game. You've just got to be careful. See what I did to Kerry to be complacent, really.
Do you think Kerry were complacent in the All-Ireland final?
Well, possibly the players weren't, but I'm sure the county was as such, and it possibly did affect players despite their best efforts, and then when Offaly were staying with them for over a period of time, that they probably got they got a bit frustrated. They were used to just playing on a 5 and 6 point lead in the second half. In most games, they had been spoiled that way, really. That Kerry nearly always played every second half on a platform of a 3 or 4 point lead at least, and even went on to extend it. Now, in the All-Ireland final, they're playing under pressure all the time, really, and they only started to play well. They started to coast out a couple of stages. They went 4 points ahead, but luckily enough, we didn't never let them get too far ahead, and it worked out, paid dividends in the end. But even the last instance, after Seamus Darby scoring the goal, Kerry had a couple of chances really that if they were winning well, they'd possibly turn those chances into scores. But the fact that they were being beaten, they were under pressure, they had to score. They were in the same positions as a lot of teams they were playing them were in over the years, and they kick bad balls there towards the end. But I'm sure, possibly if they win by 10 points, they could have got up and they'd probably have run up a goal in those instances, But
Sorry, Matt, a lot of people think that you're going to have an easy passage through Leinster next year. How do you feel about that?
There's no way you'll have an easy passage through Leinster. It's just 12 teams for a start, and we never got through Leinster easy. And Kildare and Meath are shaping up well now as well. Both of them are having a good league campaign and setting up two good teams. And Laois and Dublin are always a danger as well over the last 3 years anyway. I mean, over the last 3 years, Laois have given us the biggest problems. We've been lucky every time we played them. So no way it's going to be easy to it.
A lot of people think, Richie, when you go out to America to come back and get right into the championship, that sort of a drawback on you. How do you feel it's going to affect the Offaly team?
Yeah, well, I feel this year we'll be going out to America in very good condition, because I hear that Tom Donoghue and Eugene McGee are drawing up a programme of training, stamina training for March, which would be about a month before we'll be going to America. So I think the intention is that we'll go to America we'll have most of our heavy training over, and we'll have a holiday, all right, but with a small amount of training over there, we should be able to stay in shape, and even when we come back, we should be in shape. It won't be a case of coming back and then facing into training to get right,
Liam, last year, if you trace back to last year when you went on this holiday training session to Spain, a lot of people in the county were sort of overawed at it all and thought, well, where in the name of God are they going to now that you were supposed to be reputed to be going out to look at the World Cup finals? Did you think that had a big effect on morale and things like that this year?
It had a great effect on morale, yeah. I think that the fact that we were all together. We trained virtually every second morning over there, hard sessions, and we had training and we had enjoyment. You had no work, and I think it had a fantastic effect on morale. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to going to America this year, Tomas?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I think it should be great with the whole team, because you spend most of the year you spend training with the team. It's a lot of it's hard work and a lot of pressure with the games. But the trip to America we should be able to relax and. Even get to know the fellas better socially, and that where a lot of time you don't get a chance to,
And Richie, finally, 4 O'Connors in the All-Ireland. Will we have 4 O'Connors next year in the All-Ireland final, and who will we be playing against in the All-Ireland football final next year?
Yeah, well, said the 3 boys are okay, I don't know about me. I'd imagine Galway will come out the other side, and
so it's going to be Galway and Offaly. So looking forward to the 1983 All-Ireland final from Richie Connor. Will you forecast?
Oh yeah, 116 to 12 points.
116 to 12 points. So looking forward to September 1983 when Richie Connor feels that it'll be Offaly versus Galway in the All-Ireland final, with the final score 116 to 12 points. Who's to know? Maybe Richie could be a fortune teller as well and get into another side of the game of football. So from us all here, the O'Connor brothers, thank you very much. Right, listeners and viewers, we were far away crying out from Croke Park this evening, and indeed from our last interviews in the Bridge House in Tullamore and up in O'Connor Park as well. Tonight, Monday, I think it is the 4th of October now. We're moving on in time. It's nearly 3 weeks ago now or more since Offaly won the All-Ireland final. And we're in the home of the Port Nagros GA Club. That's the Graceville GA Club here in Port Tarleton. A club that has given great names down the years to the GA here in Offaly. People like the Chunk McAvoy, Paddy Gorman, former chairman of the county board, or vice chairman of the county board, and of course the Kennedy brothers and the Handlins, Frank Higgins, and I can go on and on and on talking about some of the great people of Graceville. But tonight, I'm of course not forgetting John Smith as well. Who would ever leave him out of a Graceville team of years gone by? But tonight we're here speaking to the Fitzgerald brothers, Michael and Pat here, and we're just after having the Sam McGuire here, and Sam is sitting in here behind us. And first of all, the first question I'm going to ask Pat here is, well, who is the boss in the Fitzgerald family? Is it Pat or Michael? In other words, which of you came first, lads?
Well, I was always second right side. He's the boss.
He's the boss. That means that you're the youngest. Is that it, Pat?
That's it, right? Yeah.
Well, tell me, Pat, getting back to 1982, going back to March 1982, April, the league was over and all that, getting ready for the Leinster Championship and for the All-Ireland final. What were your thoughts then, if you can remember them now?
Well, it looked like a long, hard road, but we vowed it to ourselves last year to have another go at Kerry, and we wanted to get that far and see what we could do then. The big worry was would we falter along the way. We wanted to get that far, and it seemed like a long way away, but now it's behind us, so it was a short year after all.
Now, I've asked most of the players up to now, how did you feel going into the game against Kerry on All-Ireland Day?
Very relaxed and confident. There was a nice, positive air of confidence in the camp, and it felt good.
And how did you feel with 5 minutes to go in the game?
Much the same. Even though we were behind at that stage, I didn't realise what way the time was, and compared with the same time last year, the same stage in the game, I felt beaten then. This year, thought we could keep plugging away and see what was going to happen. And thankfully it worked out.
How did you feel after scoring up the field and scoring that point in the All-Ireland final?
Well, a thing like that does your confidence a lot of good, but you don't have much time to think about it, only get on with the game. It's the kind of thing that every half-back likes to do, is get up now and again and have a go, and that was the only go I had, and it came off, so it felt good just then, but the game was a long way from being won at that stage.
I'll just move over to Michael here. Michael, how did you feel at the beginning of the year?
Well, as Pat said, we had vowed last year, especially after the tremendous welcome we got at Tullamore, that we weren't going to come back again empty-handed this year. And I was full of determination starting this year. And I knew with a bit of luck we were going to give it a good go.
Now, going out against Michael Sheehy, a player of the calibre of Michael Sheehy, did you sit down at night after you finished work and think about what way you were going to play him? Because you went out there on All-Ireland Day and you just completely blossomed him out of the game. Every step he took, I think Micheál and your remark, if he went into the loo, you were going in after him. Was that your attitude on the day?
Well, I knew I had a particular job to do on the day, but it was made very easy for me by the lads around me. They were all on their game, and it made my job that much easier. And I didn't think beforehand what way I was going to play. I just went out on the day, and I was determined not to let him play his usual game, and things went very well. But as I say, all the other lads around me did their job, and it left my job a lot easier.
Well, we've been speaking to the Lowry brothers and speaking to the Connor brothers, and we asked them one particular question. So we'll ask the Fitzgerald brothers the very same question. Do you discuss a game between yourselves before you go out on the field? We'd say maybe the night before or the week before, when you sit down as, you know, the sort of brotherly love that some people have, even though we all have brothers and we don't seem to get on that well at all. But do you discuss what's going to happen on the day? Are we going to stand up for one another and things like that? If this goes wrong or that goes wrong, does this happen, Pat?
Well, we don't get a chance to talk that much or meet that much, but when we do, football is discussed, and we discuss the game a bit more analytically, I suppose, see what kind of things should be done right and wrong, this kind of thing, and think about the game in that sense, but it is talked about all right, too.
Now, a very important question. I was reading on the paper last week where you were going to have a very, very deep think about 1983. Would you like to tell me something about that? Or were we just reading some lines that didn't belong to Pat Fitzgerald at all?
I'm still thinking deeply about it.
How do you think the decision, Eugene McGee, we were speaking to Eugene last week, how do you think his decision is going to go as regards staying on in the Offaly camp as trainer? What would you like to see him do?
Well, I think everyone in Offaly would like to see him stay on, but he has put a tremendous amount into it. He has been going non-stop for 5 years now with Offaly, and it's difficult to know what to say to him. I think himself he would like to keep going if he could. I think everyone in Offaly, as I say, would like him to do that, but he knows his own mind best.
Michael, regarding the league coming up now, how do you think Offaly are going to fare out? Will you be going out and going smack into it, or will you do as the Offaly Hurlers done last year, perhaps just try and stay in there?
I think the policy is to go out and play as All-Ireland champions in each game. We're not going to, as far as I know, put in any special preparation for the league, but we're going to have it in our minds each game we go out that we're All-Ireland champions, and we're going to try and play accordingly.
Are you looking forward to the trip to America next year if it comes off?
Very much so. We've heard a lot about these trips before, and the fact that the whole team will be going on it means it's one not to be missed. So we are looking forward to it, yeah.
What about the trip early on in the year when you decided to go to Spain? Did you think that was a good thing?
It was a fantastic thing. We brought players, selectors, wives, girlfriends together in one spot for 2 weeks, and it welded us together. We went out early in the mornings, we trained very hard, and it renewed the determination that we had vowed last September. It renewed that determination, the fact that we went out on holiday together, trained hard together while out there, enjoyed ourselves, and everything worked out fantastic for us.
We've gone through a lot of different personalities with regards to Offaly 1982 All-Ireland champions, and today is, believe it or not, the 24th of October. Over a month now since Offaly captured the All-Ireland Championship title, and believe it or not, in 2 days' time this gentleman sitting here beside me will be heading back across the ocean back to San Francisco, to another part of the world, away from the Offaly footballers, away from the Offaly fans, away from the faithful county. And the first question I want to ask Johnny Mooney is, Johnny, 1981 you departed. Did you think at that stage it was goodbye to Offaly football?
Well, I did race it for a few years. I hadn't planned to come back for about 4, and 1982, about July, Eugene McGee contacted me and asked me if Dublin beat Offaly, or if Offaly beat Dublin, sorry, if I would be available for the semi-final against Galway, and I said I would. So, as it turned out, Offaly beat Dublin, and I made the arrangements to come home, and I arrived in Offaly a week before the semi-final, and I wasn't on the original 15, but Seamus Darby was injured, and he failed a fitness test on the Saturday night before the Galway game, and I got a place.
What was the pressure like, Johnny? It must have been great pressure going into that game with everyone from Offaly wondering, was Offaly selectors and Eugene McGee doing the right thing? How did that feel going out in Grove Park on that Sunday?
Well, I was under no pressure whatsoever. Maybe, maybe not. The selectors took a bit of a gamble by picking me for the game, but I was happy and they were happy, and as it turned out, things worked very fine.
And you played well?
Very well, yeah.
Now, moving along to the All-Ireland final, Johnny, preparation for it and that sort of thing. Did you find it hard to get back into top gear for the All-Ireland final after being away from the game for a while?
No, the atmosphere was great in training, and it was the very same as I'd never been away.
Well, we've asked most of the players now, how did you feel on the Saturday night before you met Kerry, particularly after last year, and how did you feel then this year?
Well, last year I wasn't so involved, I was injured, but this year there was a much better atmosphere, the players were much more relaxed, and we had a meeting in Tullamore the Saturday night before the game. I think after that meeting there wasn't any doubt in any players' mind but Offaly were going to win the All-Ireland.
How did you feel going in at half-time? We were all up in the Hogan stand. We were very, very confident that you were in there with a great chance. How did the players feel themselves?
Well, we felt we were there with a great chance. We were 10 points to 9 up on the so-called best team of all time, and they had it all to do. And we kept plugging away, and well, we won. That's it.
Now, 5 minutes to go. How did you feel then? Kerry were 4 points ahead.
Well, I wasn't aware of the time, how much time was left. They were up 4. We pulled back a point. They were up 4 again. We got 2 points, and then Seamus got the goal, and the
show was over. The 5 in a row was no more.
Yeah.
Johnny, it's a month now since. What sort of a month has it been?
It's been a hectic month. It's been great. The celebrations have been great, and it's no more than the Offaly players deserve.
Were you a bit disappointed over not being able to play with Road in the county final on last Sunday?
I was, but unfortunately, it was circumstances beyond my control. Nothing I could do.
Well, what's in store now for Johnny Mooney after winning today? A great win today, by the way, of yours. Offaly 4-8, I think it was, to 2-1. 4-9, I've been told there by my producer out there on the far side. 4-9 to 2-1. A great win, Johnny, today, wasn't it?
It was a great win and a great display by Offaly, and they crushed the Dubs 3 years ago, and they still have been crushed, and that's the way to keep them.
Now, what's in store for Johnny Mooney now, as in from Tuesday onwards? Will you still hold an interest in football, Johnny, where you're going out to in San Francisco?
Certainly, and I'll be available for next year's championship if the Offaly selectors and management find it necessary to bring me home.
That's a clap on the back for the Offaly selectors and management. Of course, we'll be looking forward to Johnny Mooney coming home. So we'd like to wish you well, Johnny, and we hope things work out well for you over on the far side. And please God, we're looking forward to having you back next year. Of course, you'll be looking forward to the Offaly team going out now with the All-Stars in next May.
Oh, indeed I am, yes.
You'll have great preparations made for them. It'll be a sort of a busman's holiday for you, because you'll be in the thick of things out there, getting ready and preparing. What is the name of the club you play with out there, Johnny?
Shannon Rangers.
Shannon Rangers. And what sort of football do they play?
They're a Kerry-based outfit. I would rate them junior football.
Club junior,
yeah.
Here in Offaly. Well, good luck to you, Annie, John, and safe journey
Thanks
on
a lot.
Tuesday. Thank you very much. Right, here we go, the man of the moment himself, Jerry Carroll, just after coming in off the field and togging in after beating Dublin very decisively today, 4-9 to 2-1. And Jerry, we're not going to talk about today's game, we're going to talk about Offaly 1982, preparation for the All-Ireland after last year's defeat against Kerry. Tell me, how did you feel, we'd say, last January, February, coming through the league? What were the prospects for Offaly coming into the 1982 championships?
I think since last year's final, Ricey, Eugene McGee had been gearing us up towards playing Kerry in the All-Ireland final this year. And he had us believing that there was going to be no other final than the Offaly and Kerry, and that's what we were waiting for all year. And lucky enough, well, not lucky enough, but that's the way it was.
And you set out with that in mind even from the first championship game?
Yeah, we did, yeah. The most important thing, I reckon, in our build-up was on the Thursday night before the final. We had a meeting in Tullamore here, and we saw the video of last year's All-Ireland final. And when it was over, all the boys were around, they were talking to one another, and they were all saying, Jesus, look at all the chances we missed, and look at these scores we gave away. And it was then, I think, that the lads really started to believe that they could beat Kerry, you know.
Did you sleep easily on the Saturday night before the All-Ireland final?
I slept great this year, yeah, I had no problems at all this year. Last year I was very, very nervous. More nervous than I've ever been, but this year I was very relaxed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how relaxed I was, actually.
Now, how did you feel before the game?
I couldn't wait to get out in the field.
Good job to do.
Yeah, well, I think that was the feeling with everybody. They were just so tensed up and so eager to get out and have a go at these Kerry lads. See, we were all geared up towards attack. That was our game. We were going to attack Kerry.
All the way.
And that's what we did, yeah.
That's what you went out. That was the plan, really.
Yeah, it's just attack.
Yeah. Looking back against Galway, what do you think went wrong there, or do you think that you met a good Galway team?
I was saying before the Galway match that we'd all want to be playing well to beat Galway, because I rated them a very good team. But as you know, against Galway we didn't play well, but we still won. So I'm a bit confused at the moment. I don't know what to think of Galway. Yeah.
Now, would you have been disappointed, Jerry, if you didn't meet Kerry in the final this year? Supposing Cork had beaten them in the Munster final? Or was it important to meet Kerry after last year's All-Ireland final?
If you were to win an All-Ireland final, Ricey, you couldn't have picked a better one to win it this year. Kerry going for 5 in a row, the greatest team of all time. I mean, anybody who wanted to win an All-Ireland final, that was the one to win. So naturally enough, I would have been very disappointed if it wasn't Kerry, yeah.
Now, we've asked Johnny Mooney about his feelings at half-time. How did you feel going into the dressing room at half-time?
I felt good, and I wasn't tired or anything, and we were playing very well. We played great football in the first half. I was a little bit disappointed that we weren't maybe 3 or 4 points ahead.
Yeah,
So now we
Kerry-
deserve to be 3 or 4 points ahead.
Kerry came back into the game with about 5 minutes to go in the first half. At one stage, you were leading by 3 points, I think it was.
10 points to 7 it was with 3 minutes left in the first half, and we let Kerry. I think up to that stage we were attacking them. But I think just for the last 5 minutes in the first half, we did relax a bit, and we let Kerry come at us. That was the only time I'd say in the game that we did relax.
5 minutes to go, Jerry. That's the question we've been asking everyone.
Well, 5 minutes to go, Seamus Darby was playing.
And that was it.
I know. I always watch the clock in Croke Park to see how much time, when the referee's throwing in the ball, I look at the clock and I work out what time this match is going to be over at.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out that I didn't know there was so little time left.
You had lost track of time, really.
Yeah, I remember when Matt went up with 3 points, when we were 3 points down to take the free, and I shouted at him, kick it over the bar. And I thought, at that stage, we were pressing forward a lot. I thought we were still going to win, but that we were going to win it by getting points.
You didn't realise there was only 2 minutes left in the
I didn't, no. No, I was glad that when we got the goal, when I heard it, there was only about a minute and a half or 2 minutes left.
Now, what about the last month, Jerry? I know you've got a lot of things happening for you in the last month, little secret trip across the water and things like that we won't go into. But it has been really a hectic month, hasn't it?
It's been a great month, fantastic month for everybody in Offaly and for even people that are not from Offaly, because it was, first of all, it was such a good game of football, and the fact that at last Kerry are beaten, someone else has taken the All-Ireland off them. For me, living in Dublin, it's great, it's great. Anywhere I go in Dublin, you get a great feeling, I mean, everybody is congratulating you and wishing you the best and telling you how good of a game it was and all this, It's fantastic.
Now, Jerry, basically, this Offaly team have nearly been together as long as the Kerry team have been, over the last, since Eugene McGee took over now, you've been 6 years together, you could say, most of the team. 1983, 7th year, can we get this determination going again? The interest? Or will it be easier or will it be harder for you?
I think it'll be easier. I think everybody's more mature now. The fact that we have won something at last. There was a lot of slogging there for a long time. Just thinking back now, I remember playing under 14 football with Offaly. I was playing midfield. Tomas Connor was playing centre half back. Johnny Mooney was right half forward, and believe it or not, Matt Connor was in goals. So a lot of us have been playing together and around for a long time together.
Yeah.
It means an awful lot.
Well, after today's game now against Dublin in the league, do you think you're going to have an easy passage through Leinster next year?
Everybody's saying that, Ricey. Everybody's saying that we should come out of Leinster, no problem. But Leinster's very hard to win. There's so many teams in Leinster. I mean, the thing about the championship is if you lose a game, you're gone. So you can't take any chances. So, I mean, you have maybe 3 or 4 matches in Leinster. You have to win them all. It takes a lot out of you.
You had a good win today. Was there any training for any preparation for today's league game against Dublin?
The lads were training on Wednesday night, but I wasn't down. I didn't come down. I'm not going to be coming down and training with the lads until after Christmas because too much driving. But the lads were training on Wednesday night, and I think they had a kick around yesterday. And I think they're training 1 night a week for the next 3 or 4 weeks.
So you think this Offaly team would be interested in winning the National League?
Well, I wouldn't say it like that. I'd say that they want to win every game now, That's in their heads. I know that from where the players were acting in the dressing room before the match today.
And what do you think of your chances now for next year, Jerry?
At this stage?
At this stage now, right now. Can you make a forecast for 1983? 11 months on from now. Will Offaly be...
Do you want me to say who's going to win the All-Ireland?
Exactly.
I tell you, if anyone beats us, they'll win the All-Ireland.
That's good enough. So from Jerry Carroll, if anyone beats Offaly, well, they'll be the All-Ireland champions next year. Jerry, thank you very much. We're sorry for delaying you a little bit. You can pop down now, perhaps, and get your meal. So, pleasant journey. Well, sitting beside me now, we have the man, perhaps, that the Offaly people, the faithful county, the faithful followers, and indeed everyone that knows anything about Gaelic football will never forget for the last 2 minutes of the Ireland football final of 1982. Seamus Darby. Seamus, you're very welcome. We won't discuss that now at the moment, but we want to go back to 1971, 1972. straight back from there, tell us, Seamus, and what happened between those years and 1982?
Well, 71 and 2 was my first 2 years in the panel, and I was only very young, and I suppose when you're young you take a lot for granted. You think that this thing's going to happen every year. I've been out for 6 years. 6 years since I played in the championship. My last game was in 76, and I just lost form, I suppose, and wasn't good enough, and that's more or less it. That's it.
Lost interest, perhaps?
I probably did for a couple of years, but I didn't lose interest all the time, you know, and I thought, you know, I was interested, say, for 3 of the 6 years, certainly, yeah, but I just wasn't good enough.
And how did it all happen this year for you, Seamus? Tell us the story of that.
Well, I suppose I was playing fairly well with the club, you know, and the selectors were watching me, and I got the wind of it, you know, and then they asked me was I interested in going back to train with the panel, and I mean, I'm 31 years of age now, and they probably were expecting me maybe to say no, I don't know, but I was interested, of course, and always interested to try and play with Offaly if I can, and that was my main objective, I suppose, for playing on with the club all the time, and I was, and went back in and trained. I lost a stone weight actually for the Leinster final. I was 13 stone going into training.
How did you feel going out in the Leinster final, Seamus? Were you nervous, worried?
A bundle of nerves.
More nervous than you were back
I was never as nervous as I was in the Leinster final. I was very nervous, and I knew there was a lot of pressure on me, because if I played well, people would say, well, you should have been there for years, and if I played bad, people would say you should never have been there. So I realised that. But lucky enough, I got a pint very first minute, and that settled me down, and I was sound from there on, you know.
And
well, from there on, I took it, you know, I done fairly well in the Leinster final.
Did you find the training hard?
Yeah, it was fairly hard on me. As I said, I lost a stone weight in the month, and you know, like, you don't just lose a stone weight too easily, you know. It was fairly hard. Yeah.
Keep the strength up.
Keep the strength up, you know. Yeah.
Now, what really happened as regards the All-Ireland semi-final? You had to cry off injured.
Semi-final, I had to cry off. I pulled a hamstring in the Leinster final. Early on, not too bad, but I pulled it badly then with about 10 minutes to go, and I just, you know, I got on okay, and after that I thought, I said, I have a month now, at least I'll be right, you know. But I just didn't come right, and it was a fairly bad one as it turned out after. It was a kind of in at the back of my knee more than anything else, and the Galway game then came up, and I still wasn't right, and I done a fitness test on Saturday night before the game, and I probably could have started it, but I wouldn't be happy with it, and I'd be only going off after maybe 10 minutes, and myself completely gone altogether, and maybe the team beaten. So I figured then the best thing was to let in someone else. And I mean, Johnny had come from the States, and I knew he was in fairly good shape, and there's no point in me going out half fit, you know.
And how did you feel coming up to the All-Ireland final then? Did you think you were going to regain your place, or did you think all hope was gone of you getting back on the team?
No.
Johnny Mooney playing so well in the semi-final.
Well, I'd be very honest and say that I was partly guessing I wouldn't get my place for the final. I was hoping, of course, but I was partly guessing they wouldn't change the same team, wouldn't change the team. And I was more than hopeful that I'd get a run in the final, which, as it turned out, I did, you know.
Now, we were talking to your brother, Stephen, about the All-Ireland final.
Yeah.
How do brothers fare out? We've also spoken, of course, to the Connor brothers and the Fitzgerald brothers and the Lowry brothers. Do the Derby brothers get together and have a chat about the game beforehand? Or did you and Stephen have any words at all before the All-Ireland final?
We do, yeah, we do, yeah. Mostly, actually, before every match, there'll be club championship or with Offaly playing, you know, there's 5 brothers of us in the family, and 4 of us play in the senior team in Rowan, and we all meet at home at my mother's every Sunday morning before a match, and there's a general chat, and sometimes maybe some of us might meet too good a form of talking, but maybe fall out as well, but we'd normally meet at home at my mother's and we'd have a chat. And
what happens after the games?
After the games?
With the brothers?
Well, nah, you wouldn't fall out anyway, you'd have to, you know.
Now, getting back to the All-Ireland final that day, both Stephen and yourself, you were in the dugout, subs on the Offaly All-Ireland football team. Stephen thought he would have a chance of coming on at one stage, but he said when Liam Currams went up the field and scored a point, and Pat Fitzgerald went up the field and scored another point, and Sean Lowry went up the field in the half-back line and scored another point, he thought that was it. Well, his chance was gone.
Yeah, actually, I was standing beside Stephen in the dugout that day when Liam Currams went up and scored a point. He said, and then Pat went up and scored, and he said, "Well, I might as well go and put on my clothes now, you know." And that was genuinely as I felt as well. I said, "There's absolutely no way Stephen's going to be on anyway, you know, and maybe I have a chance of getting in, you know."
Yes.
But when I saw him having to take off the tracksuit, I was delighted for him. I was hoping he'd do well, you know.
Yes.
But I was surprised, might I say, but I was hoping he'd do well, and he did do well, you know. I was
Going
delighted for
into
him.
the dressing room at half time, Offaly were a point up. Even at that stage, did you think your chance was gone of going in, or could you see any change, or how did you feel at half time?
I felt confident at half time, and I was hoping that I might get in maybe 10 minutes in the second half. But all the lads were playing well, you know, and you know, I couldn't see anything to take off, so I said to myself, well, I'd probably have to sit it out now, you know.
Now, when Kerry went 4 points ahead, how did you rate Offaly's chances then?
The first time they went 4 points ahead, I still wasn't really worried. No, but we came up and scored a point and left us 3 behind. But when Paddy O'Shea went up and scored the second one, put them 4 points ahead for the second time, at that stage I was beginning to, you know, I wasn't fancying our chances too much now.
And then, what happened then? Eugene McGee called on you? Tell us how that really happened.
Well, I was sitting back, you know, not saying I was relaxed, but I was sitting back, not expecting to be going in, and I saw the selectors in a huddle, and I said, hopefully it's me now, you know. And really, I was, you know,
you were wanting to get
you
in.
always mad to get in, you know. And Eugene McGee said, Seamus, look after your tracksuit, you know. So I said, this is it, you know. So I got out in the line, and there was a break. There was no break in place. So I was standing on the line for a couple of minutes, you know. And he says to me, you go in and hang around the goals. You know, at this stage we were 4 points down. And this was for the first time. So I had seen, I probably had an unfair advantage maybe. I had seen that there was a lot of balls hanging around. Paddy Lynch had cleared a few, and you know, and I said, if I hang in around here, there might the ball come my way, you know. And the way I looked at it was, I might as well be beaten by 2 points as one. If you're beaten in an All-Ireland final, you're beaten, and that's it. So when I got the ball, it was all or nothing, and I just let it off, and lucky enough it went to the right place for once.
Now, question everyone in Ireland is asking, and was asking for weeks after, not that it matters to us here in Offaly. Did he get a nudge?
No, he didn't actually get a nudge, to be honest. I tell you a very good incident about today, after if you want. He didn't actually get a nudge. What happened was Liam Connor kicked in the ball, and the ball was a kind of floating in the air, you know. And the two of us were very near misjudging it. And at the last second, I saw that this ball was coming in over Tommy Dyle's head, far. And at the last second, he copped it as well. And I just steadied my ground, and I held him back with my hips, you know. And he probably took a little bit of a dive, I'd say, hoping he'd get a free out at that stage. But I didn't foul him. I just stayed where I was, and he kind of tried to get back, and I wouldn't let him. And there was no nudge, no. I just got it, and I kicked it, and that was it, yeah.
But even after that, Kerry came up the field, down along the wing, and in around the corner, and we were right at 1 point. Marks were stopped.
Yeah, I was terribly worried because I thought at that stage, I thought that they probably would have got a free and made a draw match over, and if they did, I'd die, to be honest.
It's after been a great month now, though, since.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah. It's a great month to be an Offaly man, really, or to be from the county, because it's not only for the players, but the reception we've got everywhere. People obviously are terribly excited, you know, and as I said, it's a great month to be an Offaly man. It's a great thing to happen to the county.
And what about today now?
The story or the incident or the game?
The incident today.
The incident, well, the incident today was very funny when I realised what happened after. I was going in today with the bag, you know, and I saw this well-groomed man standing, and he came over and he shook hands and he says, well, you know, the word he said to me was, Seamus Darby, how are you? And I said, not too bad. No one I'd seen him before, you know. And he said, well, how are you getting on ever since? I said, not too bad at all, you know, I still celebrate. And he said to me, I said, yeah. He says, did you get much stick over the nudge, you know? Well, I said I did. I got a bit, you know, a fella slagging me, you know. But I said, I was delighted. I said that Jim Carney proved it on Monday night that I didn't push him. He showed it, I said, 3 or 4 times. And so this man anyway turns around and he says to me, no, he says, I didn't think you pushed him yourself, because as I was standing where I was, he said, he didn't say where he was standing now. He said, where I was, he said, I could see, I was in a line with you and I could see that you didn't push him, you know. So that was fair enough. I walked off anyway and put on the clothes and togs and out. And when I walked out, who was it? Only PJ McGrath, the referee. I couldn't believe my eyes. So, you know.
So that was confirmation.
It was,
of
yeah.
the whole
It
incident.
was, yeah.
So there you are. We've been waiting for that, and we finally got a word. There was no nudge, there was no shove, there was no pushing. Even the referee himself was the man that spoke up today. Now, Seamus, what about 1983 for you?
rumours are going rife around the county that, well, you're on the top of Mount Everest, you could just fall off it now and that was it. You're still interested in getting in there with the Offaly team and going out next year?
Yeah, I realise that. You know, I mean, if I could do it, it'd be the right time to get out for me, you know. But I've been on the line for 6 years, looking at Offaly going out to play, and I'm mad to get out, and I couldn't. And I've no intention of throwing in the towel. I'll be dropped, probably all right, but I'll give it all as long as I'm wanted by the selectors and the manager. And you know, I'm enjoying playing football, and for me to give it up, I'd be just depriving myself of something that I enjoy doing. So I'm looking forward to 1983. Yeah.
And the All-Stars tour, of course, and Offaly going out.
Certainly, yes. Yeah, I certainly am. Yeah.